Hey, this is the Corey Maselli Show with my trusty partner, Matthias Bergström Andersen, hailing from the great country of Denmark. Today, we've got Dustin Minks, bench warrior, cancer survivor, philosopher, and expert. Well, dare I say, expert in the true Louis Simmons Westside training method. Want to say what's up to the people, Minks?
How you doing, all?
Matt, now they're doing better here. Your beautiful voice, but
yes.
I'm gonna turn this over to Matthias a little bit because I know Matthias got a very scientific mind. He really loves different training approaches. There's a lot of confusion out there of what really West Side training or conjugate training is. And we know, as Louis Simmons the Great says, it's always evolving anyway, but there are some fundamentals and some principles. And I know you've spent some significant time with one of the pioneer strength coaches, the best in the game, Louis Simmons himself. So let me turn the mic over to Matthias and you, Dustin, and you guys take it from there. And I may pipe in a smart-ass comment or serious question as we go.
There we go.
Okay, so can you explain like the basics of the Westside Barbell system?
It's a conjugate system derived from the Soviet, Romanians, Eastern European. It's principally 4 days of training. You have a dynamic effort squat day, you have a dynamic effort bench day, you have a max effort squat day and a max effort bench day. In between sessions, to bring up your weaknesses, you do extra workouts on your off days. You know, usually 20-30-minute workouts, dragging the sled, working on rear delts, tricep work, a lot of high rep stuff. Always trying to bring up what you suck at.
Okay. Well, yeah. Back it up. Can you explain what dynamic effort means? Keep a lot of our listeners, like, some people know the program already. So let's speak to people that really don't have an understanding as to the Westside training background. What does dynamic effort mean?
Dynamic effort is working on percentages, light weights, moving at maximal force. For example, you're a 700-pound squatter, okay? Let's say on your Friday squat workout, you use approximately 350 pounds of bar weight plus accommodating resistance, which would either be band, chain, weight releaser. In the squat, we don't use weight releaser, but band, chain, and you wave it in 3-week waves where you're using band or chain, 80-pound chain, 120-pound chain, 160-pound chain. So approximately what you're doing is using 350-pound bar weight on week 1, let's say 12 doubles with 80 pounds of chain. Week 2, what you do would be 10 doubles, approximately 350 pounds and 120-pound chain. Then you go into week 3, you go 8 doubles, 350 pounds, approximately 160-pound chain, which would be 4 lengths per side. Okay. In this, using bands, that's a whole different ball game where you're at in your cycle, getting ready for a meet. In the off season, you use green bands, which is average bands. Let's say a 700-pound squatter, we use 350 pounds plus green bands. Actually, the way they work that is like 47.5, 50, and 52.5% for a 3-week wave.
Explain to the audience what you mean by bands. I certainly know what they mean, but let's explain to the listeners what you even mean by bands. Because
when I trained at Westside, it was jump stretch bands. The place was called Jump Stretch.
So the bands are what, 3 feet long or something like that?
Yeah, about 3 feet long. What you did was you choked them on the bottom of the monolift and put them on the bar. The way we had it at Westside was we had an extra 4x4 on the side of the monolift, taped to the monolift to even stretch the band farther and provide more resistance. For example, a pair of green bands would give you, choke from the bottom of the monolift up to the bar, would give you approximately 150 pounds more resistance. So let's say you have 3.
Pause. So obviously you're in the lower position of the squat, it's less resistance. Accommodating resistance, meaning the higher you stand up, the more resistance you encounter.
Okay, I'm getting at that, Corey.
Okay.
Let's say you got the green bands on. Okay, you got 350 pounds of bar weight on there. You have the green bands. You have 500 pounds at the top approximately, and when you deload in the bottom, let's say you'd have 350 plus an additional 75 pound of band tension. So you'd have like 425 at the bottom, 500 at the top. because when you sit down, the bands aren't stretched as far, but when you stand up, they're stretched even farther. It's the same concept with the chain. The chain deloads on the ground, and when you stand up, the chain is all the way off the ground.
Gotcha. So then where do you go, like, after, like, the cycles are 3 weeks or 6 weeks? I forgot what you said.
3-week waves.
3-week waves. So let's say you, after that 3-week process, what do you do for the next 3 weeks?
You change bars, okay? Just say you're using a straight bar, competition squat bar for the first 3 weeks, okay?
Okay.
You change bars. Let's say you use a giant camber bar or a safety squat bar. Then you do a 3-week wave of that on a different height box. You would box squat. Let's say again you're a 700-pound squatter. You with a safety squat bar, you use like maybe 3 plates on each side plus. Let's say everyone use chain for a 3-week wave. Then we use 80, 120, 160-pound chain in a 3-week wave.
Gotcha.
For 12, 10, and 8 doubles.
All right, now Matthias, you ask some questions here because I got a couple questions too, but I think you'll probably bring some understanding.
Maybe we should move on to the 2 other days of the main days, the max effort days. Like, can you explain what max effort days is? And then I have a question about gear and more max effort work after that.
Okay, you want to know what a max effort day is, okay?
Yeah.
Let's use deadlifting, for example, okay? On Mondays, usually on Mondays was max effort squat deadlift day. At Westside, you usually didn't do a squat work or squat movement unless it was like maybe off of like 11-inch box with a close stance and with a safety squat bar to mimic the deadlift. On a max effort day, what you're doing is you're doing triples all the way up to singles. You're going, let's say your max with the camber squat bar suspended from the belly button on a good morning, okay? Your max is 500 pounds. The goal is to get 505 pounds that day. So make it or miss it, you're going for a 5-pound PR. You're straining your central nervous system to get 5 pounds better. You get what I mean?
So on the max effort day, it's not necessarily replicating your competition style. You're you're building strength in a exercise similar to your competition style. In effort that you're going to build up some weak links or something to that effect, correct?
Yeah. When I did my best deadlifting back when I was a 198er, I pulled close to 700 pounds at 198. I didn't do a whole lot of deadlifting. I did a lot of good mornings, and they were suspended from chain in a power rack.
Okay.
I do a 545 pound good morning with the camber squat bar. And that would translate into, let's say, a 300 kilogram deadlift. The good mornings always mimics the deadlift. I was a conventional puller, so obviously shorter width stance. I was doing good mornings out of the rack in a conventional deadlift manner, mimicking the deadlift itself. Just puts the bar in a whole different position.
So would it be safe to say in this method, your main squat development is actually coming on your dynamic effort day? Is that a safe assumption?
Exactly. Because when it's all said and done, 4 weeks out before a meet, you're in your Circumax. Circumax is handling maximum load with not maximum bar weight. The Circumax is based on the bands. Let's say 1,000-pound squatter Corey would. Let's put it this way: Vogelpool, for example. This is the prime example. Vogelpool, 1,180 pound squat at 240 shoot. Okay. His Circumax, it'd be like 3 doubles and 2 singles would be the workout. His last single would be, let's say, 675 pounds of bar weight. He'd have 2 blues and a green on each side. You'd have approximately total 2 blues and a green would be approximately 550 pounds of band tension. So you'd have, 675 plus 550 pounds of band tension. He's handling over 1,200 pounds at the top. He's shocking his nervous system into unracking 1,200 plus pounds.
Gotcha.
And when he's in the bottom end of the hole, he is handling 1,100 pounds. The thing with bands is you're trying to outrun the bands. That's why them guys like Vogelpool was so fucking fast of a squatter. There's nothing slow about it. I don't give a shit if you're wearing canvas and briefs and whatever. He was dynamic. He was so fucking fast. He would sit back with 1,100 pounds and he'd shoot up like a rocket, like there was nothing on the bar.
Oh yeah,
he was constantly outrunning the weight.
Anybody listening want to see some impressive powerlifting? Go YouTube search Chuck Vogelpool. You'll see some impressive lifting.
And that's what happened to me, Corey, in the beginning of becoming a good bench presser. I constantly benched against bands when I was younger. I learned how to outrun the bar. And if you watch videos of me today now with, 825 pounds, I outrun the bar, because if I don't outrun the bar, it's going to plant my face or my stomach.
Yeah. The face might be an improvement. The stomach, probably dangerous.
Yes.
I'm just messing with you.
Yeah, it's all them tacos in Aurora to cause that.
Exactly. Well, to me, what would personally, when I'm hearing that, if I could rewind the clock and engage in some of that training, I wouldn't even want to attempt it unless I was under the guidance of Louis. To me, it sounds a little confusing. So if anyone's listening and they want to actually employ these methods themselves, what do you recommend? Because that's a lot of information to take in. My gut hunch is a lot of people that think they're running the Westside training method are really just doing some kind of weird variation, spinning their wheels.
Well, I'm here to tell you right now, Corey, you got to be fucking nuts to be able to do it, because when you walk into that gym, it's just like Dave Hoff said in that movie. It's like a fucking prison. Okay. It's no holds bar. There's $100 bills in a chalk bowl, and somebody's going to have a fucking bloody nose or have something broke at the end of the day. Them guys that train, I don't know what it's like now, because these kids now they're pussies. But back when I was there, it was a different breed, man. It was like what you and Jose and them guys were at one time. There was no gym bros and all that shit. I mean, it's like the old France gym. You had to be fucking nuts to get under the bar.
For sure, man. Yeah, I get it. But all right, well, let's back in to talk bench press development with the Westside system. Again, talk to someone that doesn't have a thorough understanding of it. We want to bring an understanding to someone that's heard of Westside training or conjugate training. So break it down to someone, be specific in how you would approach developing a bench press using that type of system.
Okay, your max effort day, for example. Let's say that was, I think that was Sunday at the time. Halbert usually runs the show in the bench press. If you don't know who George Halbert is, look him up on the internet. This guy was a freaking madman. He was a 198, 220 lifter. He actually competed at 242 at one time, but he did his best lifts at 198. I think at the time, let's say year 2000, 2001, before the shirts become crazy, he benched 716 at 198 in a damn denim shirt. But the fucked up thing of it is he benched 650 pounds raw at 198. He never did raw contest. He gave a shit less about raw. But the son of a bitch would bench 650 pounds to get in a piston match with Kenny Patterson, and they would see who's going to try to snap whose forearm.
Right.
Yeah. Him and Patterson were just equal, and they were chasing each other's records back and forth. They would take a max effort lift. Let's say a two board lift, for example.
Dustin, what time frame was this? What years are we talking approximately?
Oh shit! When I was young, in college, it was like 97 up to about 2003.
Okay, 20 years ago, basically.
Yeah, I mean these guys, they were out there. They would let's say, for example, Corey, a two board press. Okay, they'd never put the damn shirt on. They'd work up to 585 for a triple off two board. Somebody's going to put money on the table and go 595 for a triple. And is Howard going to beat Patterson and go 605 for a triple? That's the kind of mindset it was.
Yeah,
I mean, it was constantly nonstop.
Yeah, highly competitive environment. I think that's, as we look at any top athletes like training program, highly competitive is like the common theme.
Yeah, you got that straight. If you're going to be good, you better walk the walk and not talk the talk.
Yeah.
But what these guys would do a max effort exercise, okay? But the max effort exercise, the bench press, that's not the foundation of being a good bencher. They would pick afterwards, they'd pick 2 tricep exercises. And I'm not talking your freaking push downs and all that bullshit. We're talking taking 125-pound dumbbells and doing rollback extensions with them for like 8 sets of 8 with 30 seconds rest between each set.
What does that mean? What's a rollback extension?
It's like a French press, more or less, with dumbbells.
Like laying on like a flat bench or on the floor or what?
Either or, and they would do it like a skull crushing movement, more or less. But you use dumbbells, and they do 8 sets of 8, 30 seconds between each set, and they'd move on to the next tricep exercise, which would maybe be like you set your pins in a power rack and put a folding chair in there, and do military press lockouts. They'd have like 405 on the damn bar with a close grip, and do 3 sets of 10 with 405 with close grip. In a military press, just pressing off the pins, working that head of the tricep at your elbow. Then after that, Corey, they would pick out 2 back movements, whether it's chest supported row and, for example, dumbbell rows, and they'd pick like 200-pound dumbbells up and do like 5 sets of 5 in each arm with 200 pounds rowing them.
Right. Well, one thing is for sure, whatever was going on at that time, in that era, it really changed the game, man. There's certainly a lot of merit to it. You look at the records that were set, some of the principles that bled over into like sports performance, college football training, any college sports was greatly influenced by Westside Barbell. We know that. So,
yeah,
I mean, there's certainly a lot of ways of applying those basic principles to people or athletes beyond just the scope of powerlifting too.
Right. Them guys also did a shitload of rear delt work and shoulder work. Something I put in my training now. I'm not training a Westside system no more. I'm too damn beat up for it. But I'll, like on a shoulder day, for example, I'll do like 6 movements, and this is the kind of stuff like Kenny and them would do as extra workouts. They'd pick out some movements that's like lateral raises, front raises, rear delt raises. But you end of the day, let's say compare 50-pound dumbbells, right?
Okay.
You sit in a chair and do 4 sets of 50 overhead press with 50-pound dumbbells. Constantly building that shoulder muscle up and flushing blood in that area that's affected.
Yeah, just so you're right. You said 50 as in 50, not 15, correct?
50, 50, yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, I think that's a lot harder than a lot of people realize, because what I've noticed is when it comes to overhead pressing, for some reason, it's a lot harder to do 20 reps in that way than it is to do it with like chest presses or rows or something like that instead. I mean, once you get to really high reps with the shoulder presses, holding the weight overhead, it just gets like irrationally intense, I think, for a lot of people. So
right.
So just like 50 reps with like a relatively light weight, I mean, that's probably a lot harder than most people even realize listening to what we're talking about.
Yes, exactly. I mean, because you have to build all those small muscles up.
Yeah.
Myself right now, I'm sitting. I hard down how long it's been going on. I have a frayed supraspinatus tendon and subscapularis tendon in my left shoulder. I've built my damn upper back and shoulders up so much that I don't feel pain in the shoulder no more, and I have full range of motion with 2 tendon tears.
But hey, let's go into your back. Oh, go ahead, Matthias. Sorry to interrupt.
I just said that's great, but I mean, I do have a question if you don't mind then. Yeah, I mean, it's about like the max effort work for geared lifters versus raw lifters, because I've tried a little bit for the lower bodies to do the max effort stuff, and we had Brandon Allen on recently, and he said something that resonated with me, that he trains something completely opposite, but he does think that conjugate training is a good system, but for raw people, it's probably a good idea to sometimes use shorter range of motion, even though you're not an equipped lifter, and even have a rep day instead of like a max effort day, or is it too hard to keep up with it without getting beat up or getting injured? And I was wondering if you think that's true or false.
I'll tell you this straight up front right now. And since I've been back in the shirt and training in the shirt for the past 6 months or so, I'm handling 800 plus pounds in a shirt, right?
Oh yeah.
But my raw bench has jumped leaps and bounds. And my last warm up before I put my shirt on is 5 plates raw. It's built my raw. Handling big weights in a shirt builds your raw weights. Here's the thing. I'm gonna say something in the squat right now. So all these guys in squat raw, if you look at them, they have short careers. I hate to say this, but like Lil Prince, for example, he had a 7 year career. Okay, he's a damn good dude, and I love him to death. But these guys, like Vogelpool, for example, that squat and breathe, they've had long careers. Okay.
Well, I don't know if you look at Ernie Lillibridge Jr. He's still at his lifetime. He's setting PR in his lifetime lifts still.
Yeah, but he's been beat the fuck up.
Well, we all have. Look at you. Look at me. Shit.
I'm going to touch on something here, Corey. This is what I'm getting at. Vogelpool, for example, okay, in a pair of briefs, just a pair of briefs, squat into a box, 14-inch box. He can squat 1,000 for a double on a box and just some briefs, okay?
Okay.
He can take them damn briefs off, and I shit you not, squat 900 pounds raw with no briefs on, because he's handling big weight all the damn time. His 900 pounds don't feel like shit on his shoulders or hips.
Right, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, if you look at any elite level squatter, whether an elite level raw guy, it might take a little while, but he can convert over to do a heavy geared squat. And your elite level geared squatters, proven time and time again, are excellent raw squatters. Because we're talking squat, the movement is very, very similar whether you're raw or geared. So I think it's squat. I don't know if that's where you're going with the conversation or not, but if you look at like Vlad Alosev, or you can say his name, he's a 1250 geared squatter. What do you squat raw? 1157 or something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
So you look at Sam Bird, he was like a freaky geared squatter. If I can remember, I think he squatted about 1,100 pounds at like 190 or 220 or something.
Yeah.
Then he came and he was squatting 900 plus raw.
Right.
So I see where you're going with that. But
what about someone who is like into raw lifting? And I mean, surely there is a point in using some sorts of equipment sometimes to boost the raw strength. But what if the person can't afford that type of gear, like briefs or whatever? Or what if he's just not interested? What if he just can't believe what you're saying and he doesn't want to do it? Would you then give some advice, like sometimes do 10 reps instead of a single, or sometimes use shorter range of motion or something like that?
Well, I use Manuth, for example, right there, a Franz lifter. They're Barbell Central. When Corey and I was there at Barbell Central, they're in Aurora. Manuth was a 900 pound bencher in a shirt, at 220. But I'll tell you, he can take the shirt off and do 500 for a fucking set of 10 raw.
There's something ridiculous. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, but I'm not talking about the raw versus gear. I'm talking about like the training as a person who is training for raw max, like how to structure it from week to week.
You got to train it. In my opinion, conjugate's the way to go on that. It doesn't matter if you're raw or geared. You're constantly changing variables in conjugate and overcoming weak spots. A lot of things I see about raw lifters, like an example, squat. These guys are all quad dominant. They don't
Yeah.
They don't have strong hamstrings. You know, Corey, for example, as tall as he is, he wasn't meant to squat 1,100 pounds, but he has strong ass hips and hamstrings, and that's why he squatted 1,100 pounds. Because all these guys don't have strong hips and hamstrings; they're all quad dominant, and that's their downfall. In conjugate system, you're working that damn weak spot. You're working things that you more or less suck at.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if Corey, for example, would have had to squat with a close stance, he wouldn't squat 1,100 pounds. I'll tell you that right now. But he has such strong hamstrings.
Yeah, keep in mind, I came up in the France system. You know, we basically used barbells and a couple lat pull downs, and you know, we kept training very basic as far as the equipment work, but we did put a huge emphasis on developing hip strength and like hamstring strength, like you said.
Yes.
And, you know, developing hip strength, you know, ties into that glute strength also, your whole hip architecture. So, you know, more than one way to skin of the cat. So, I to your point, you know, building those, whether you're a gear lifter, raw lifter, athlete, whatever, I agree. A lot of people do not spend enough time on like hips, glutes, and hamstrings. And to your point, there's no way in hell I would have squatted those kind of weights without really developing that musculature. You're right.
It's the same way with your deadlift, Corey. It's the same damn way as your deadlift. You pull 910 pounds with a sumo, right?
Yep.
You overcome them. You built your hips and hamstrings and glutes up by doing partials, you know, off 4-inch boxes and shit like that with 1,100 pounds.
Right.
You built your hips up. The things that you had to work on, you built up by doing different motions. It wasn't all deadlifting off the ground every week or every other week. It was throwing all those different variables in there.
For sure.
That's how you overcame a 900-pound deadlift off the floor, is because you built the shit out of it with 1,000-pound deadlifts off a 2-inch or 4-inch box.
And one of the like the fundamental Ernie Franz exercises, he called them bottom squats. And man, they work for, if you look at a lot of the Franz lifters, a lot of confidence at the bottom of their squat, because we spent a lot of time down there. Ernie would have us do what he called bottom squats, where we'd go, you know, break parallel. These are all, you know, almost exclusively done like raw, even whether you're a gear lifter or not. We, you know, break parallel and come up maybe like 60% of your range of movement and go right. So you stay in that partial, a little below parallel to about 60% up. You do 10 continuous reps with that. And if you weren't breaking parallel on the rep, Ernie would, you know, no go. It didn't count. So, you know, really, and the whole time you're really focusing on wedging those knees out and maintaining perfect position. It sounds like a real simple exercise, but you do 10 partials in that 60% range, lock it out, big breath in, and then you finish it with one competition style single. You know, I saw that exercise work wonders for like all body types, men, women, old, young. That was like kind of a forgotten secret of the Ernie Franz method. Called them, you know, shorts or bottom squats or something like that. Man, they built some power out of the hole. I promise you.
Well, I'm willing to bet Ernie learned that from watching that Anderson guy that was Olympic lifter back from Georgia back in the 50s.
Paul
Yeah,
Anderson.
I'd be willing to bet on that, because that's the type of stuff that he did to train. And back then, from what I was told by Louis, Paul Anderson, raw, he would squat close to 1,000 pounds raw.
Nope,
1,200. It was never recorded. You know, there was no meets.
I know the story, Minks. Paul Anderson, and I encourage any listener to want to see an impressive story, just look up Paul Anderson strongman. But before powerlifting was a true competition, he squatted 1,200 pounds 6 days a week as part of his strongman show in Las Vegas. 1,200, not 1,000.
That's a great ending for our first part of this podcast episode.
There you go. All right, we'll pick this up in just a minute.
Okay.